Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you for joining me. It is Friday, the 12th of September. Windy weather is moving across the country this weekend and more of it coming next week. We've also got some polar air in the mix as well. So let's make sense of everything at the moment. Low pressure moving into the North Island. A few thunderstorms, most of those actually offshore, some of them brushing the very far north there. Most of that is now moving out to sea, and now we've got more of a southwesterly change coming into the South Island and westerlies carrying on for the North Island as that colder airflow starts to move northwards. It does most of that on Saturday. Here is 6 o'clock this evening though. The low moves out to the east and you can see the colder southwesterly returns into New Zealand. So it is windy around Auckland, coastal parts of Taranaki, in some parts of the west coast as well, but even out to the eastern side of the North Island due to the low that is deepening, and that could also drag in some of that windy weather across Bay of Plenty. And later on, as we go into Saturday, windy weather pushes in right across the country. There's a big surge of it out here near Tasmania, and that is coming on in. So here's the gust map. This is an animation for you. This starts at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Windy weather around Auckland, Coromandel, Kaimai ranges going into Bay of Plenty. And then as the low comes out to sea here near sort of Mahia Peninsula, the southerly change will kick in behind it all. And then of course, west to southwest winds at the south of the country. They're about to get colder as we go in towards Saturday. So let me animate this for you. It's a slow animation, timestamps here for you. So you can just sort of get the idea as we move along how this is shaping up. So as we go into Saturday morning, that's when this big surge comes through. Lunchtime, you can see it now picking up around the North Island. And as we go into Saturday night, areas in purple coming off the Tasman Sea into the North Island, northwest corner of the South Island as well. And that blustery weather carries on through Sunday, more so around maybe the North Island than the South. We do see calmer spells returning into the South Island on Sunday, and as we go through the afternoon and evening, a lot of that moves further out to sea. So windy stuff is on the way, and like I say, the polar part of it kicks in on Saturday. So winter conditions around parts of Southland and Otago for farmers, especially with newborn livestock. Take a look at the rural weather website we've got. It shows wind chill hourly in every single part of the country, and there are some areas that may be only around zero at the warmest part of the day as we go through Saturday. So cold around there, snow flurries in the mountains and ranges, windy weather as we just saw pushing in and moving up the country. So it's still somewhat mild ahead of the polar airflow, colder stuff behind it. So much of the South Island will feel that wintry change coming through. Canterbury fairly dry, many eastern areas in fact are quite dry, as is the very top of the North Island. By Sunday, colder air moves into the North Island and then at the same time, it gets pushed eastwards. So you can see it lifts right up here. It's sort of the same latitude as about Auckland and Coromandel Peninsula, but the strong westerly by that incoming high out of Australia pushes it all eastwards. So the Chatham Islands smack bang in a wintry, cold southerly, squally showers there. Around the South Island, conditions easing down a bit. The winds aren't as strong. It's still cold for you, but not as wet as well. But in the North Island, still plenty of showers coming through. Some of those could be a bit heavy, and those winds, as we just saw, especially strong around the western side of the North Island, the top part of the North Island, and along some of the eastern ranges of the North Island. So by Monday, that high drifts a little bit closer towards us out of the New South Wales area over the Tasman Sea. The wind flow on the southern edges of it, strong west to northwesterlies, they will pick up in the lower part of the South Island as we kick off next week, which means after a cold weekend, Monday is significantly warmer as high pressure moves closer to the top of the country and drags that northwesterly out of Australia into the south. Now, there may be a few western showers of both of the main islands, but really it's a pretty dry day, especially inland and eastern areas, mild as well as those winds start to really pick up. So the next burst of wind is likely to happen on Tuesday at some point. It's sort of moving around a wee bit. One of the peak times maybe into the evening with some very strong gusts around Canterbury and also windy around Wellington, Wide Upper. We'll have to keep an eye on that. It's still a bit of a long way out, but that is the current thinking at the moment. There may be a burst of damaging winds on Tuesday. And as we go into Tuesday, here is again sort of a bigger picture look at it. You can see those winds right here, and they will move up the coastline as we go through the day. So that map I just showed you actually was a little bit later than this map I'm showing you for lunchtime. So that windy stuff is moving in here with that nor'wester that will slide up the South Island during the day. So it may not start too badly, apart from a couple of western showers, mostly dry. By Wednesday, the high just near Northland, but the deep low, 955 hectopascals, south of New Zealand. So we are right in the squash zone. Windy west to northwesterlies blowing through. There is that area of severe gales that develops into Tuesday evening for Canterbury and then starts to slowly move up as we go into the middle part of the day on Wednesday for central parts of New Zealand. It is still mainly dry in eastern areas and dry at the top of the country. Subtropical winds coming down with those northwesterlies, so it'll be pretty warm on Wednesday for northern and eastern parts of the North Island, and actually quite warm into the South Island as well. But you can see the polar airflow returns, comes right up into Victoria, ballooning out into the Tasman Sea. Rain becomes heavy over on the west coast, mostly southwestland, Fiordland, but there will be some spillover into Otago and Southland as well. And then as that front comes in towards probably nighttime, snow flurries again back on the mountains and the ranges, but that won't be happening in the North Island, too warm. On Thursday, the polar change moves into the North Island. Now it's the North Island's chance to have a temperature change as the warm air gets pushed away, and now the polar airflow comes on back in once again. So it's short-lived in true spring style. Everything's sort of zipping through from the western side to the eastern side. But this is another windy day around New Zealand. More heavy showers around, maybe a couple of thunderstorms and hail showers in the mix. Those strong to maybe gale force winds carry on. And we're also seeing, once more, after that cold change occur in the South Island, the winds coming back out of Australia again as a nor'wester, and that will build into Southland as a westerly, perhaps by nighttime. I mean, we're nearly a week out, so fine-tuning this stuff's a little tricky that far away, but really you're seeing a cold front zip over the country next Thursday. And so by Friday of next week, the next big high, quite a strong one, moving into the top of the North Island. This one might actually go over the top of land for a time, keeping the winds light there, but of course it dredges down these nor'westers out of Queensland and out of New South Wales and brings that down into the South Island. At the same time, there is a bit of polar air in there, so that might spark some west coast thunderstorms, some heavy downpours. And again, those winds pick up on Friday of next week. There might be gale force conditions there. What we're seeing in this big picture is a bit of uniformity with high pressure in a straight line along the top part here of the map. Low pressure, big storms in the Southern Ocean are lifting further northwards, closer to Tasmania, closer to the South Island, and that means the squash zone between all of that, coming in over the southeast corner of South Australia and over the South Island, that carries on. It's what we would call traditional spring weather, and that is absolutely what we're getting, not just for the next week, but for the rest of this month of September. There's no real change in this weather pattern. So therefore, the bulk of the rain is down where it should be in the Fiordland National Park. Over 200 millimetres coming there. There could be 300 millimetres or more, in fact, for some parts of the west coast. But over in the east here, around Canterbury, up to Marlborough, southern parts of Wairarapa, when you're in that kind of blue-purple zone, just a few millimetres coming, less than 10 millimetres for some of you. Dry parts of Hawke's Bay could do with a drink. Not a lot coming, but you never know. With the low crossing over the North Island today, there is a chance to get a bit of wet weather in there. Fingers crossed. I know some of you do need the wet weather, as do some of you over on the western side. So there's a bit of variety around, but it is very much classic spring weather. That is all from me for this week. Have a great weekend. I'll see you again on Monday next week.